When Clint Eastwood stepped onto the set of The View, no one was prepared for what would unfold. Not the producers, not the audience, and certainly not Joy Behar. What began as a routine celebrity appearance quickly spiraled into one of the most tense and unforgettable moments ever aired on daytime TV. Two titans of American culture, one, a symbol of old-school grit and silence. The other, a firebrand of modern commentary and confrontation, collided in real time, and the result? A masterclass in quiet strength versus performative outrage. This wasn't just an uncomfortable interview, it was a battle of ideals, where decades of earned respect clashed head-on with performative politics, where Clint Eastwood, at 94 years old, reminded the world that real power doesn't raise its voice. It just stands its ground. But what pushed this Hollywood legend to his breaking point? And why did one of TV's most outspoken hosts end up speechless? Before we dive into the full unraveling, don't forget to like this video and drop a comment below. Who do you think crossed the line, Clint or Joy? And more importantly, was this confrontation a wake-up call or a warning sign of something bigger? The sun hadn't even risen over Manhattan when producers at The View began buzzing with anticipation. The day's guest wasn't just a celebrity, he was an icon. Clint Eastwood, a man whose legacy had spanned over 6 decades, reshaping American cinema and redefining masculinity for generations. At 94, he still carried the quiet intensity that made audiences sit up straighter. He was in town to promote his latest film, a reflective piece already generating Oscar buzz. And despite his age, there was no sign he had lost his edge. Backstage, the energy was electric. Stagehands prepped lighting, the crowd filled in early. And even the co-hosts seemed unusually alert. All except one. Joy Behar sat in her dressing room, scanning her note cards like a soldier prepping for war. She wasn't just planning an interview, she was planning a moment. The kind of television spark that trends, that makes headlines. In her mind, Clint Eastwood represented everything outdated and problematic about America's past, and she was ready to confront that, live and unscripted. But what she didn't expect was that Clint was just as prepared. As the cameras rolled and the theme music faded, Clint walked onto the set with a pace that was slow but deliberate. The applause surged, not out of obligation, but out of respect. The kind of respect only time can earn. Dressed in a modest, charcoal suit, he offered a nod and slight smile as he took his seat. Across from him sat the panel, and at the center, Joy Behar. Her smile was tight, controlled, already brimming with challenge. "Mr. Eastwood," she said, her tone laced with performative charm. "I have to admit, I'm surprised you agreed. To come on this show, our audiences are, let's just say, from different worlds." Clint's eyes didn't waver. "That's exactly why I'm here," he replied calmly. "The world only works when different people talk to each other." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "But Joy wasn't done well," she continued. "Your films and politics suggest you live in a pretty black and white world. You know, good guy with a gun solves everything." Clint didn't flinch. "Movies aren't sermons, Joy, and real life isn't a script." The audience chuckled. The co-hosts exchanged glances. Joy leaned forward, narrowing her gaze. "Oh, so now you're here to give us life advice from a film set?" Clint raised a brow. "You're playing a character, too," he said flatly. "Difference is, I know when to stop acting." The air turned still. Joy stiffened, her smile thinning. "Are you accusing me of being fake?" she asked, loud enough for the back row to hear. "Because I've spent decades speaking out. I don't hide behind characters or scripts." Clint's response was quiet, but sharp. "I'm saying, maybe try listening more and performing less." Laughter broke out across the audience, low and unexpected. Joy flushed. Her hands moved more dramatically now as she leaned back in her chair. "This isn't performance," she snapped. "This is journalism." Clint tilted his head, unimpressed. "Real journalists ask questions to understand. You ask them to hear. Your self-talk?" The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. A moment frozen in time. "You're insulting the entire field of journalism?" she fired back, trying to claw back control. Typical behavior from someone who's been surrounded by yes-men for half a century. Clint smiled faintly. 60 years, actually. And in that time, I've learned something simple. Respect isn't owed, it's earned. Joy looked around for support, but her co-hosts had gone strangely quiet. Sensing her grip slipping, Joy leaned in again, this time her voice carrying more venom. "You can't handle strong women, Clint. That's your problem. You come from a time when women were expected to sit quietly. We're not quiet anymore. And that clearly scares you." Clint's smile didn't budge, but it changed. Slightly colder now. "I've worked with the strongest women in the business," he said. "Meryl Streep, Hilary Swank, Frances McDormand. You know what made them strong? They didn't need to shout to be heard. They didn't confuse volume with power. Joy blinked. That wasn't the answer she expected. "Oh, spare me," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "Name-dropping doesn't make you an ally. These women succeeded despite the system, your system." Clint's tone sharpened just enough to cut my system. "I produced films that gave women leads when others wouldn't. What have you built?" Aside from soundbites, her jaw clenched. "I've been fighting for rights while you were making movies that glorify violence and toxic masculinity." Now Clint leaned back, calm, controlled. "If this feels like intimidation," he said softly, "maybe ask yourself why that is. I haven't raised my voice. I haven't made threats. I've just answered honestly." Joy turned to the camera. "This, folks, is what powerful men do. They show up, throw their weight around, and expect everyone else to bow." Clint looked her straight in the eye. "No one's making you feel small but you." Whoopi tried to pivot, suggesting they talk about Clint's film, but Joy wasn't done. She was already too far in. "No, let's stay here. Let's see the real Clint Eastwood, when he's not hiding behind characters." Clint looked at her steadily. "I'm someone who respects people until they show they don't deserve it." He paused. "How about you, Joy? Who are you when the cameras stop?" That question hit harder than any insult. Joy stammered for a beat, then tried to recover. "I hold people accountable," she said, but the conviction in her voice was gone. "For what?" Clint asked. "Disagreeing with you? For perpetuating harmful stereotypes?" She snapped. "Your films push aggressive, outdated ideas about what it means to be a man." Clint nodded slowly. "Then I can assume you haven't watched them, or if you have, you've only seen what you wanted to see." Joy scoffed. "I've seen enough. That's the problem," he replied. "You haven't seen. You've judged, assumed, projected. You're not having a conversation. You're staging a monologue." Joy stood abruptly. "I don't have to sit here and be talked down to." Clint didn't move. "I'm not talking down. I'm talking directly. You just don't like what you're hearing." She turned to the producers off camera. "Are we seriously letting this continue?" But the control room stayed silent. They knew they were witnessing TV history. "You're a relic," Joy barked. "Your brand of masculinity isn't welcome anymore." Clint stood, slowly, with a presence that silenced even her. "You know what's not welcome?" he said, shouting. "People down, making assumptions, attacking without listening." Joy's voice cracked. "You don't get to lecture me. You've made a career glorifying revenge." Clint's tone dropped again, almost like a father explaining something hard. "And in those stories, you'll see broken men searching for peace, redemption, connection. But you never looked close enough to notice." Joy gripped the arms of her chair. "You think standing makes you more powerful?" Clint shook his head. "No. I think listening makes you powerful. Something you've refused to do since I walked on this stage." She turned to the camera again. "Do you see this, folks? This is how the system works. They twist the narrative until the woman looks irrational." Clint cut in, not angry, not even defensive, just certain. "No one twisted anything, Joy. You did that all by yourself." Joy's voice was now strained, verging on hysteria. "You're walking away because you can't handle a strong woman challenging you." Clint paused at the edge of the set, then turned back. "No, I'm walking away because this stopped being a conversation 5 minutes after it started. You wanted a scene, not a discussion." He removed his microphone, handed it to a stunned assistant, and faced the audience, finally breaking the fourth wall. "Real strength isn't about shouting people down. It's about knowing who you are and walking away when dignity is no longer part of the room." He walked off set, leaving behind a studio in stunned silence. Joy remained standing, her expression frozen, caught between fury, embarrassment, and realization. She hadn't just lost control of the interview. She'd lost the narrative. It was a moment that would be replayed, dissected, and debated for years to come. A clash between a Hollywood legend and a talk show titan where one relied on volume and the other on presence. Joy Behar tried to dismantle a myth, but in doing so revealed more about herself than she ever intended. And Clint Eastwood, he didn't just survive the fire, he walked through it, untouched. What do you think? Was this a moment of truth or a masterclass in deflection? Did Clint defend himself with dignity, or did he cross a line? Let me know what side you're on in the comments, and if you want more dramatic breakdowns like this one, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. We've only just scratched the surface.